From in the beginning to the musical apocalypse, this is The Bible Says What. I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. When any representation of the LGBTQ community is shown on film or television, many Christians will cry foul and assert that Hollywood is shoving it down their throats, exposing them to how others actually live, feel, and love. Well, I can't drive 2 miles without seeing a church or bumper sticker or some silly billboard condemning me of my thoughts or threatening me with hellfire. It's a personal assault on the community and rationality. If having gay people in a movie is offensive, but you're telling people they'll burn in hell forever, then there's definitely something wrong with your logic. The consistent bombardment with accusatory theistic propaganda is overwhelming. This is why I find it so important to express my atheism and humanism loudly and proudly. Religion is toxic. It poisons everything from the playground to the White House. Tax the churches and remove the embarrassing religious promotion from my money and courthouses. Christians do not speak for me, and this is not a Christian nation. Let's start the show.
Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I
didn't figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
Did you listen to the show before coming on?
I did about 2 weeks ago when we made whenever we made the appointment. So yes.
Good. That's always nice when somebody just, actually listens so we don't have to.
Oh, I know.
I appreciate it, man. All right, I'm going to jump right in with the introduction. Here we go. Today's special guest is author, podcaster, and outdoorsman, Pete Rogers. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. There's a lot of questions I have for you, but I kind of want to start with your newest stuff, your newest book you got out.
Okay.
And something about enjoying God. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the title of it is called Do You Enjoy God? And it's 12 Steps to Enjoying God Every Day. And Michael, the way that came about was it actually started in 2014. And without going too far, it's also what launched the podcast also. But in 2014, as someone who just loves to read theology, I ran across the Westminster Shorter Catechism, and I was reading it. And for those who don't know what a catechism is, it's just a teaching tool that is a question and answer format. And this was written by the Scottish Presbyterian Church in the 1600s. So it goes way back.
Yeah.
And so the language is 1600s also. So there's a little bit of interpretation, but the way it's set up is the question, and then the student would memorize the answer. And it's designed just to teach the students about who God is, about the role of Jesus, the role of the Holy Spirit, what's the role of the church, all these kind of things. It's a very good tool. But anyway, so I was reading it just out of curiosity, and question 1 of the Westminster Shorter Catechism says, "What is the chief end of mankind?" And okay, now that was written in 1600s. The modern translation of that is, "What is our real purpose for being?" All right. And the answer to that question is, our real purpose for being is to glorify God and to enjoy him forever. And I read that, and then I went on to question 2, and then it just came back to me, and to enjoy him forever. What does that really mean? Does that mean we're not supposed to enjoy God until we get to heaven? Or does that mean that, whenever Christ's kingdom is reestablished on earth, when does forever start? And as I struggled with that over a couple of weeks, it dawned on me that forever, it starts right now. As soon as we build a relationship with Christ is when it starts. And I asked myself, Michael, I said, am I enjoying God? And so I came up with these questions of myself, and some self-reflection evaluation is, I acknowledge God, and I worship God. I love God. I praise God. I tolerate God sometimes. I mean, let's get real, right? And all these things about God. I enjoy his creation. I enjoy his the blessings that he does for me, but do I enjoy him in a deeply intimate and personal way? And I realized I did not. At least not the way that I understood the question to be. And so it started me again in 2014 on a journey of intentionally trying to enjoy God every single day. Like being really intentional. How am I going to enjoy God today? Whatever the mundane things of life bring us, getting up, going to work, and how can I enjoy him? How can I not just acknowledge his sunrise, or just acknowledge the pollen that's clogging up everybody's heads right now, or acknowledge any of these things about God, but to deeply enjoy him. And as I have been going through that process for the past 7-8 years now, every single day I start my day with the question, Pete, how are you going to enjoy God today? And by being intentional with that, it completely changed my life, Michael. My children, I have 5 children, and my children will tell you that I became a better father. I became a better husband. I became a better follower of Jesus. I became a better person in general, because my focus every day is, how can I enjoy God? And that led me to my podcast and subsequently the book, because my podcast is entitled Christian Outdoors. And we'll get on that in just a minute. But my tagline is, where we talk about all things outdoors and how we can enjoy God every day.
So let's dive into that a little bit. How did you enjoy God today?
Today was this is my 3rd podcast today. Okay.
That's a lot. Congratulations.
Yes, it is. Yes,
a lot of work.
I recorded one and been guest on now the 2nd one.
Oh, wow.
And so during that, I've been able to talk about this a lot today. So that helps me to be able to enjoy him, is because it keeps it in the forefront of my mind.
Talking about him is enjoying him.
Absolutely. For me, it is. It helps me to be able to just keep God in the front of everything that I'm doing, and my passion for God. Yeah,
for sure. 100%. No, I like that. It's kind of like my relationship with my wife. I enjoy talking about her, the things that she does, her attributes, stuff like that. But she's a physical being, and I have an actual relationship with her, because I can go to the next room and hug her and talk to her and all sorts of things. Now, that relationship with God, you're talking an intimate relationship. How does that work? Because to me, they're 2 different things. I can't really see how you can have that. Don't take any offense. That intimate relationship with an invisible person. Right. So how does that work for you?
Well, and that's actually the 1st chapter of the book. Is where does it start? Right. It starts with a relationship, and I break down the different types of relationships that we have. And you mentioned, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm an employee, I'm an employer, I'm a coach, I'm an umpire,
lots of hats.
all these different podcaster, writer, all these different things. And each one of those has different relationships. The way I feel about my wife is completely different than the way I feel about my children. But those relationships are both very, very valuable to me.
Tangible. They're tangible people. They can interact with you and whatnot, your children, your wife, all that. Yeah, for sure.
Right. But my role with them is different.
How?
Okay. Because I'm a father or I'm a husband. Right.
So
Yeah. And so when I look at my relationship with Christ, it starts with, when I accepted Christ as my personal savior, then I understood that at 12 years old, when it happened, to be a fire insurance policy, right? It kept me out of going to hell. Okay. But as I have grown and understood that it's more than a fire insurance policy, it is a God who created me in his image to be like him in will, intellect, and authority, and to share his goodness. I mean, what are the 2 commandments, Michael? To love him and love each other. Right. So when I love other people, when I look at someone else, when I look at you through this Zoom meeting and I see someone created in the image of God, I don't see just another man. I see someone who's created in the image of God, and that draws me closer to him, because my role is to love God and love other people. And by loving him, I glorify him. By loving other people, I glorify him. And that in turn helps me to enjoy not just him, but all the things that he is.
Have you met him?
No.
Can you carry on a conversation with him like you do your wife or children?
Not in the same way, no, but I do have conversations with God, yes, because
Does he
prayer
talk?
is listening as much as it is talking.
But does he talk back to you during prayer?
Not audibly, no.
So again, how is this a relationship? If I have a conversation with my wife or kids, or your wife or kids, you can have that two-way conversation. They don't send you thoughts, feelings.
Right. Well,
They talk to you. And how?
well,
So I don't see
let me
that as
give
a
you-
relationship.
well,
I'm just-
it is a relationship because, well, let me give you this example. Okay.
Okay.
Staying on the human form, as you said, I have a daughter who's married to a gentleman who's in the Army,
Mhm.
and I very seldom get to talk to him because I'm not supposed to know where they are. Okay. And that doesn't degrade my relationship with my daughter because I don't get to see her and I don't get to talk to her very often, once or twice a year at the most.
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't mean that my love for her is any less, that my appreciation for her is any less, that my value for her is any less. All right. And my relationship with God starts with when I accept him as my personal savior. And as John 3:16 says, that whoever believes in him will have everlasting life. And when I read that, Michael, that word whoever came to me and said, whoever believes in him, anyone who believes in him will have everlasting life. Anyone who calls on my name will be saved. Now I'm paraphrasing all this.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I read that, I remember thinking, well, I don't have to be like Michael to be saved. I don't have to be like Ben to be saved, or like Janice. God wants me the way he created me to be. And God's put a thumbprint on every individual. When he breathed life into your lungs, and when he put that sperm and that egg together in the womb and said, Michael, this is a soul. I am breathing life into it. And this soul is unique and is special and is uniquely, wonderfully made by the hands of God. And that's where the relationship starts. When we recognize that relationship is different.
That's a lot there, but I still fail to see where the relationship. You said your daughter's gone, you can't see her, but you were there for. I'm assuming you were there for her birth, you were there for her childhood, you were there for all of that until she disappeared and went off to the. Well, not really disappeared, but you know what I mean. She kind of went off the grid a little bit. Yahweh's been off the grid forever. You've never met him. You've never seen him. He's never shown up to your birthday party. It's a little bit different there, as far as I see.
Well, I would argue that I have met him.
Right? You have met him.
Just like I've met you. Okay. I've never
zoomed with Jesus.
Well, sort of.
Did you record it? Because that would be interesting.
Before I turned the video on, you had never met me except auditorily, right?
Yeah.
You assumed there was a person on this side of the microphone.
Well, I can see pictures and videos of you, though. That's the difference.
Right. And I see the character of God and all that he does. I see the essence of God in people and in creation and in.
Do you though? I mean, people are pretty nasty sometimes. So is that the character of God as well?
Well, we live in a sinful world, Michael.
But is that the character of God?
Through evil people? No.
Nasty people. Yeah. So no, God's not in those people. God's not working through those people. God's not shining a light through those people, or whatever it is.
I didn't say that. You did.
Okay? Yeah, whatever it was called. You said, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reaching. I was trying to find out what it was.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that everyone that is created by God, and I believe everyone is created by God, he creates them with his earnest desire to build a close, intimate relationship with them. Some people decide not to do that. Just like when you meet somebody at the grocery store, you may decide you want to build a relationship with them, or you may not, for whatever reason.
Yeah,
just for whatever reason, they just, it just doesn't jihad with you, as there's a Southern slang for you. It just doesn't jihad with you, but some people were drawn to, and some people were not. And we want to build relationships with people, and a relationship is, as you said, it's very complex and it's unique to each role and each individual that we play. My role with God is I'm his child. And I have been created to serve him, to glorify him, and to enjoy him. That is it.
That's
the way in which I do that is unique to me, because the scripture tells us that the Holy Spirit gives us all gifts as he determines. And it says at the last verse of chapter 12 of Corinthians says, and he does that for the common good, to benefit everyone else, not to benefit ourselves. The gifts that God gives me is not to benefit me, it's to benefit the common good. And it's my job to understand what those gifts are and to use those for his glory and for his kingdom, to bring other people into relationship with him.
Well, just one more question, then we'll move on the topic a little bit here.
Okay.
So why doesn't he show up? Why does he not just poof, here I am? In the Bible, we have Saul on the road to Damascus, and Jesus shows up. He wasn't even searching. There's millions of people that are searching and calling out and crying out, and he doesn't show up. I was one of them many years ago. Many years ago.
Yeah.
But he never showed up. I can even just sit here on this podcast right now live. We can talk. We're not really live, but live, me and you. Ask him for anything, a sign, a light, a flicker these lights, anything. Make Spider-Man fall. Anything. Nothing. I mean, anything. And I don't have anything. But when Saul doesn't even want anything, Jesus shows up. So why is he not showing up for people? Does he want them to go to hell?
I do not believe God ever wants anyone to go to hell. No.
Then
but
why does he
God
not
does
send
show
me the proof that I need to be convinced?
I believe that God reveals himself to everybody in unique ways for what that person needs. The timing may not be what we like.
Well, is it convincing though?
I think it is for many people, yes.
So if he knows what would convince everybody, why does he not just send that vision or reality or relationship, whatever it is? He knows will convince every single person. Why does he not do that?
He did that
when
Jesus.
I wasn't there. Were you?
No, but I don't have to be. I wasn't.
I did. I need to be there. I kind of need the evidence. I can't just I mean, Hercules died for people. I mean, Buddha died for people. I mean, it just doesn't mean it's true though. Doesn't mean these people actually did these things.
But when it comes to Jesus, there is historical evidence that proves.
There is no historical evidence that shows he rose from the dead. There's not one. That's the problem. He may have been a real person. I'll grant you that. But there is no proof of any of these extra miraculous things that happened. Not one.
You notice my pause there.
I did.
I'm thinking.
I love the pauses. That means it's great. Yeah. It's good. I love it.
Yeah. I'm thinking. From my standpoint, okay, and I can only speak for my experience.
Of course.
Is that God has revealed himself to me. Has he physically appeared in my room? No. Has he sent a flickering light, as you said? No. But then again, many of the relationships I have, people work through other people many times to reach me. I believe, at least in my life, I have seen where God has worked directly to point me in the right direction as I have sought and prayed for guidance and direction, and I feel like I need way and I go that way or whatever. That's me not listening to what God is saying. I believe that the Holy Spirit, when Jesus said in John 14, that when I go away, I'm going to leave a comforter for you who will be here and be with you until I come again. And that is the Holy Spirit. And I believe what the scripture says with that. And I believe that the Holy Spirit is our conscience, that when we have a conscience of saying, we know what's right, we know what's wrong, and we make those decisions based on that. My belief is that that is the Holy Spirit that is nudging us to make the right decision.
How do you know it's not Jiminy Cricket? How do you know it's the Holy Spirit specifically telling you that, or your own conscience for that matter, your own brain, your own thoughts, your beliefs, your empathy, all of that? How do you know it's not that?
Well, and that's one of the biggest struggles, I think, with humanity. Is this God telling me to do this, or is this my own lust and desires wanting me to do this, or is this my fear causing me to do this? And I believe that just comes, Michael, through a lot of prayer and discernment and just trusting that the decisions you make are being led and guided by God.
How do you know those decisions are good decisions, though?
Well, you don't know until just like any decision, you don't know the ladder is going to hold you when you climb up. You just trust that it's going to.
We have lots of places in the Bible where Yahweh tells people things that I don't think are very logical, number one, and empathetic or moral. Let's go Abraham and Isaac. That's just one little thing. We're going to pass aside all the Amalekites, all the people that Yahweh's told to slaughter, and we're just going to go with that one. If your God told you in your head, just randomly, hey, go kill your kid, sacrifice him to me, what would you think? Where would you think that was coming from? You know, it's been done before.
Well,
He tested people before in
Yeah.
the past with this.
And that question comes up a lot because it's a unique story. But I don't think I think we miss the point of the story when we focus on, is Abraham really going to kill Isaac? I think
That's not the point. I'm sorry. That's not the point I'm trying to make, though. The point I'm trying to make is that Yahweh ordered this to be done. That's the point. Not that he was gonna do it, that he almost did it. It's the fact that Yahweh set this in motion. He said to Abraham, go sacrifice your kid to me. And he wanted to prove his loyalty to him. Does Yahweh not know his loyalty ahead of time?
Yes, because God is omniscient and omnipotent. But see, God is separated from time.
Okay.
And that's the part that I believe humanity has the biggest struggle with, is because our life has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We're born, we live, and we die. And everything we do revolves around time. Right. But God is not controlled by time, because God invented time.
Okay.
Right. So without trying to get too complex here, but so the easiest way to say this is that God is active in time, all of the time, at the same time, but from beyond time.
So why does he need to test things?
He's not testing things.
Well, he tested Abraham in that situation.
James tells us that we are tested by our own desires and lusts, that God tempts no one.
Well, it also says that God tempts us not beyond what we can handle, which I think is ridiculous, because a lot of people fall for sin and temptation. So if God's testing us more than we can handle, he must not have been testing those people.
Well, the God of the Old Testament is different, because from the God of the God of the New Testament, in that, all right, let me.
Yeah.
In that, when Jesus came, he said, there was the law of the prophets and the law of Moses, and I came to fulfill those. And while there were 686 laws that the Jewish people were supposed, I think that's the right number, that the Jews were supposed to follow, Jesus says, I'm gonna make this simple for you. Love God, love each other. That's really all you got to do.
But do you think
that changes everything?
Do you see that in those old laws? Do you see love God and love each other in those old laws?
It is in there, but there's so much more that just really muddied the water for so many people. But
these are all God's laws, these old ones. These 613 of them were set in stone by Yahweh. These are perfect, righteous, and good. He said himself in many places. So these perfect, righteous, and good laws, picking up sticks on the Sabbath gets you stoned to death, burn your daughter if she's a prostitute and you're a priest. All these are perfect laws that were set in motion by Yahweh. So when you said that he was a different guy in the Old Testament, that's kind of what I was thinking, because in the New Testament, he's a little bit more loving, just a little bit more, a little more caring, a little more love your neighbor. But in the end, he's just going to burn everybody anyway. So, I mean, and slaughter them and whatnot. But I forgot my point.
I disagree with that.
You don't think Revelation is going to happen?
Oh, I do, but God's not going to slaughter everyone. It's just those who have made the decision not to follow him.
Me and my kids and my wife. Yeah, he's going to slaughter us. He's going to throw us into a pit of hell.
So you made the decision not to follow him?
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. I read that book.
Okay.
I read that book, man. Holy cow. The things he's done in there. I will not follow anybody that does the things that he does. A documented child killer, man, I have an issue with that. And I don't see why anybody else doesn't have an issue with that as well. Yourself, you want to praise and worship this guy. You've read the Bible, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you know the things he's done. You've read it. You've taken it in. Do you think it's okay to slaughter and drown children?
Well, I'll say this, Michael, just to be very clear for Pete, there's a lot of the things
for Pete's sake
that. Yeah, I've heard that a few times in my life.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and I'm gonna repeat it too. Okay.
Damn it! I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah. Gotcha. I got you. Is that there's a lot, all right, and I've been to seminary and I'm seminary trained and all that, but there's still a lot that I don't understand.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, well, why did God do that, and why did God do this, and why did God, etc. But as one dear friend of mine said one time, I'm thankful I don't have to understand it to believe it. For example, I don't understand how when I hit that switch, the light comes on. I mean, I may know that, well, it's electricity, but how does it come from the hydro dam to my light bulb? I have no clue. But
Google will tell you.
I don't have to understand it in order to know that it's going to happen. There's a lot in our lives, same thing with my car. When I turn the key or push the button, depending on what you have, all these things happen in order for me to get from A to B.
Right. But we can understand it. That's the difference. There's manuals, there's YouTube videos, there's schools you can go to help you understand these things.
You went silent. I can't hear you.
There's schools that can you hear me now? Anything? Hello? Oh no, man, it must be your headset. Oh no, it must be your headset.
I can't hear you.
Check your headset.
I can't hear you.
I didn't do anything different. I understand.
I can't hear you. There's no sound.
I understand.
Can you hear me?
Try and fix it on your end.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I
cannot hear you.
Okay, well, try and fix it on your end. Try and muck with your mic and headset.
I got nothing. Your mouth's moving. I hear nothing. It just shut off.
That's a bummer. Must be the Holy Spirit.
I can't hear anymore, Michael.
Well, we can edit this later or keep it in. It's kind of fun. I'll just keep talking and let me know when you can hear me. Let me know when you can hear me.
I can't hear anything.
Can you read my lips?
No. What did you say?
Can you read my lips?
Slowly. Can you read my lips? Is that what you said?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Try fixing your headset plug-in. Maybe
plug my headset back in.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Nothing
at all.
Let me check the settings.
All right, check your settings. Well, at least it's not a lawnmower in the backyard you're chasing around.
In the middle of a good conversation, you went silent on me, man.
I know, that's no fun. Cool. Hello. Testing. Oh, now I can't hear you.
All right. I just unmuted. I didn't know about sound.
There you are. Can you hear me? Do not inhale water.
All right. I just turned off my headphones and I can't hear you. I'm going to put them back on.
Nice. Do it.
All right. I'm going to have something's wrong with my headphones. I heard
anything?
It through my computer speaker.
Oh.
Say something.
Hello.
All right. I can hear you through my computer speaker, but I don't want that sound to come into my microphone. So
let's see if it does.
All right. You're going to have to talk to see if
so far so good.
Okay.
I don't hear it background.
I don't know what happened with my headphones, man. You were talking. I'm like, dude, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Great conversation.
That's how it works, man. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been something. I think it's Spider-Man, if you ask me.
I don't think it's Spider-Man.
Just saying.
I don't think it's
I've met Spider-Man.
Which one? See,
one God. The one in Hollywood. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them.
There's only one God, though. So
yeah, it's kind of like the Santa Claus thing. They're all little minions. They all go out and do his part, like the angels. That's what it is. It's like angels. These are all just different angels. I've met Spider-Man through these different anyways, I love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
So the jealous God thing, the punishing of kids.
Is that where we were?
I think that's where we were at. I kind of want to skip over to prayer if we can't remember where we were at with that one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember.
All right, cool. Prayer. Yay. Yeah. How does prayer work for you, and does it work?
Prayer works for me in that it gives me a chance to here's my philosophy on prayer. Okay.
Yeah.
Is I start with thank you.
Thank you.
Thank God for all the blessings that he's given me. I thank him for my wife every day. I thank him for my wife, for my children. Mm-hmm. I thank him for all the, for having a job, a roof over my head, for all the things that we take for granted. And then once I have done that, I go to what I call sorry. This is when I ask for forgiveness for all my sins, the things that I've done intentionally, the things that I may have done that I'm not aware of. The ways in which I have not enjoyed him, the ways in which I have ignored him, where I haven't shared his love. So I go, thank you, sorry, and then please. And with please is the time for me to ask God for the help in the areas in which I need help. For example, my daughter was getting married this past weekend, my middle daughter. And when I am praying with her right before we go, to walk her down the aisle, some of the things that I'm praying for is for her to continue to put God first in her life, for her to trust God in wherever He's going to lead them in their life. Um, and that's the please part. Right.
Okay,
So
well, let's
I
tackle that.
start
Hold
with
on.
I
I want to
start
tackle
with
that a little
thank
bit.
you. I start with thank you, and then I go sorry, and then I finish with please, and then I spend time in quiet listening. Just kind of I guess people who are not Christians would call it meditating, where you just clear your mind and you just try to think of nothing. And that is when I don't like people. Well, let me rephrase that. When anytime someone says God spoke to me and said boom, then I'm gonna have a little red flag on that, because I've been a Christian for a long time, and I've only felt like God may have spoken to me twice.
Hmm.
Okay, but I do feel hard word for me to say, leadings, um, lean. I can't say it because it's an L word and I have a speech impediment. But
You're good.
nudging. There's a
Yeah,
word
yeah.
I can substitute, a nudging in my heart and soul when I'm considering something or thinking about something, and
Nudging.
then I take that to say, well, let me investigate this. Let me think about that. Let me pray about it some more and see if I have clear guidance in order to make a decision. So
Nudging.
that's how I pray.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that answer. I did want to dive into the specific prayer that you said you prayed for your daughter.
Yeah.
I'm going to paraphrase here. You said something specific, but I'm just going to paraphrase. For her to follow Jesus and be a Christian, right? That was to lead or to look for, or
well, I believe that to have a really good, strong marriage, as a Christian, that it starts with God and then your spouse and then your children and then everyone else. And by putting God first and honoring Him first, then it makes all the other things that marriage comes through so much easier.
Why?
Because you are trusting and believing in the one that created you.
But what's He going to do though?
When both of you are doing that and putting God first, because I believe that
and then He'll send you blessings.
I believe what the Bible says about marriage is that you leave your father and mother, you cling to one another, and that when your relationships are centered on God and on Christ, then it makes life easier and makes the hard times a little bit more tolerable. I mean, we all go through horrible times,
Pete,
very horrible times. My wife and I lost a baby at 3 months old. Horrible times, right? And I mean, it was devastating and took a long time, and you're never really over it.
No, yeah.
Right. But you learn to deal with it. You learn to accept it. I don't know why Palmer died. I may never know until I get to heaven and get to see him. And that's the first thing I'm gonna do is look for him and jump into my arms and I get to hold him finally.
Is he going to be 3 months old? Sorry, that was insensitive. But I mean, is he going to be 3 months old in heaven when you meet him? Just kind of curious.
I haven't been to heaven yet, but what I hear about heaven is that it's everybody has perfect bodies, so he won't be sick anymore, and whatever caused him to die won't be there anymore, and that he will be fully and completely restored.
I'm sorry you went through that, man.
However God wants me to see him at that point is how I will see him at that point. And if he's 3 months old, then that's great too. He won't run and jump arms them. I will pick him up, but
yeah,
that's okay.
Man, I'm sorry that happened.
That's okay.
And it's always a tough topic. But I am gonna dive a little bit into it. So he was sick and passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think gave him that sickness?
Well, it wasn't an illness. All right. So it wasn't like cancer, leukemia, anything like that. It wasn't that. We're assuming it was SIDS, but we chose not to have an autopsy because we just didn't want to envision that happening to our little boy.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's tough, man.
that was our choice. So we don't know. Okay. And we while people around us were like, I just couldn't live without knowing. For us, it was more comforting than to see what they would do to him to find out. I think everybody grieves differently, Michael, when it comes to something like that. And whatever you need to do to get through that, then you just need to do it. And for a while we were like, why are we having to justify this decision? This is our son. We're the ones who, I mean, everybody who loves us was grieving, and who loved him was grieving, but this is our son. This is what we chose to do. So if you don't like it, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
This is what we chose to do. And it is a very, very difficult thing to carry your son's casket.
Oh yeah, no, man, I can't even.
I got goosebumps now thinking.
Yeah,
about it,
no,
because
same. No, don't
it's
say
only
that
like
out loud.
27 and 28 inches long. I mean, the casket is tiny, and we don't think about baby caskets.
I don't want to
when we
think about it.
babies dying.
Let's move on to the subject. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
No, dude,
Okay.
it's horrible. I can't even think about it.
Yeah. But bad things happen to good people all the time.
Yeah,
here's
but
the
if
thing,
your
Michael.
God is here to protect
Here's
you,
the
and
thing.
if he's loving and wants the best for you and wants you to have blessings, and you're loving him and praising him like he should, why are you suffering? Why are the people around you suffering? Because what I see in the Bible is that sinful people suffer, and the people that do well, who are praising Jesus and sacrificing things the way they're supposed to, and whatever it's supposed to be, are blessed. So I'm seeing the opposite here in this particular situation. I'm sorry, it's horrible loss. I can't even imagine. I don't even want to think about it because it makes me all emotional and shit. But
here's the thing. Here's how I describe it to people. When people ask, why do bad things happen to good people? All right. My answer is this: bad things happen to everybody.
Christians, especially, though.
Bad things happen to bad people. We just don't care about them, so it doesn't affect us the same way. I mean, let's be real. If here's a
but that's not what was promised, though.
Addict, but let me finish my point.
Go ahead.
If this person is a pedophile drug addict and his son dies, we're like, well, good riddance,
No.
I mean, that's how people react. But if it's a pillar of the community, just a great person, and something bad happens, then it affects us differently.
No, the death of a child is still the death of a child. I'm sorry, Pete, but it affects me the same. It affects me the same. I don't care if that child's from a crackhead, axe murderer. That child is still a child, is innocent from that situation.
Well, the death of a child may be a bad example, because I agree with you on that one. Okay,
Thank you.
So that was a bad analogy.
So
that was a bad analogy. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that when we say these bad things happen to good people, is that bad things happen to everybody.
My point is, though, that Christians are following what the Bible says. The word is telling them to do certain things, and they will reap such certain benefits. Matthew 21:22, whatever you ask for, you will receive. It doesn't say sometimes. It doesn't say only for those who worship him, or, bad things happen to good people. No, it doesn't. It says, if you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. And I don't see that actually happening. That's my issue here. That's my point.
And that's a very good, and that's a very valid point, Mike. I'm not going to argue that. Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the things I don't understand, but I also believe that Jesus and God is not a genie that we rub a lamp and poof, you got 3 wishes to get what you want. Right. And I think a lot of times people approach prayer as if it's a genie in a lamp, and we rub it and we say, all right, God, I want a Mercedes outside. Well, I asked for it in his name. Why don't I have a Mercedes outside? And I think the point is, that's not what you're asking for, the wrong things for the wrong reason.
The death of a child, to save a child. I think that's a good reason, right? To pray for the saving of a child, the safety of a child, regardless, even the safety of a child. Pete, children are shot in church. They're raped in church. There's no special protection there. The prayer from those parents for protection didn't work. Yahweh had other plans. And because of the free will of other people, these horrible, horrific actions happen. Yahweh doesn't stop it. He just says, I guess I don't even know. I can't even imagine sitting back and watching these things happen. I couldn't even imagine, Pete.
Well,
you either.
I don't. I would like to believe that most people don't sit back and watch it happen.
No. Okay.
100%.
I see parents stepping in and trying to intervene, and parents, loving parents. And that's what God is supposed to be, the ultimate loving parent who doesn't step in.
A loving parent also disciplines their children and also holds their children accountable. And also, I'm sorry.
They're not just, okay, let's just make sure that we're not saying that these horrible shootings and rapings are part of discipline.
No,
okay,
good.
No. Just making sure.
Not at all.
It's a whole other conversation there.
Yeah. And it's with everything that just happened, down in Texas.
Don't
It's
don't
kind of
don't don't get me
it's
started,
even
Pete.
a
I
much
will
more
lose it.
difficult subject. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, because it is raw and it is a
Man,
very
still
horrible
fresh.
thing. You know, it is fresh. And you know, it's just there is no rhyme or reason behind that, Michael. Just like the 38 people that were shot in Chicago over the weekend, there's no
Yep.
rhyme or reason behind that. Bad people doing bad things, right?
Yeah, but there's
and
extremists. There's extremes, you know, and I
there
think
are.
that's one of
There
them.
are. I mean, I can't explain what Hitler did. I can't explain what Idi Amin did, or Pol Pot, or or Ho Chi Minh,
Mm.
or any of these people that have done
Yeah.
major atrocities. And you can take that down to the Unabomber and to, I mean, all these classic cases
Timothy
that we know of,
McVeigh.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? But if you go back through history, there have always been those people. Okay.
Right.
And why are those people? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know the answer to that, Michael,
Hey,
because
Pete,
it's
though.
beyond me to know that. But I do know this
Mhm.
with everything that I am, that God's wisdom and plan is far greater than my mind can comprehend. And that whatever he has in store for Pete, all right, I'm speaking very personally now.
Yeah.
Whatever he has in store for Pete, I will accept, and I will take, and I will try my best to learn from it and grow from it, and to use that experience, good, bad, or indifferent, to try to draw closer to him. Because I know there have been times in my life when I have really struggled with my relationship with God, when I have felt like that God had abandoned me, that went for a couple of years. But I realized at that time that I was away from God was much, much worse than the times in which I've been closer to God, because the everyday things just felt so much darker, for lack of a better word, that I just felt lost during that entire time. And when I found my way back into a relationship with God, then the ability, to handle the adversity of life has been easier. It's still hard whenever crap happens.
Mm.
Excuse my language.
No,
It's still hard,
You're fine.
but it helps Pete keep it in perspective to know that there is a God who loves me, who wants only the best for me.
Let's dive into this God that loves you so much. I see him right on the same level as, actually worse than, people like Timothy McVeigh, people like Hitler. I see him worse. Hitler didn't wipe out everybody on the planet. Your God did. And in Exodus 34:14, do not worship any other gods, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. And it goes on to tell us that he's going to punish children for the sins of their father. I see him in that same category, somebody who is slaughtering children pointlessly. I don't see any good reason for Yahweh, for Timothy McVeigh, for the asshat who slaughtered children in Texas. I don't see any good reason for any death of a child. I don't. So when your God kills children in several places, how does that register with you? How do you not see him as a monster?
I don't see him as a monster. I don't understand a lot of the reasoning behind the things he did in the Old Testament. I don't.
But you
And
still
I'm
worship
not,
him, though.
I'm not going to pretend that I do. There's a
Yeah.
lot, as I said earlier, Michael, there's a lot of things about God and about life in general that I don't understand, but I have to take it on faith, and I have to take it as a big picture and a picture for me, and how does it affect me and my family and my life. And I have seen that in my life, having the relationship with God has made things much better and easier. We recently, with my children who are now all adults, had conversations about some of these difficult conversations about, it wasn't the thing in Texas. It was, I think it was the,
There's so many. There's so many. Where do we start?
Hold on a minute. What's his first name? Nassar, the U.S. gymnast doctor who was molesting those girls for all those years. What
Yeah.
was his first name?
I don't
You know
even
what I'm talking
care.
about,
I
right?
mean, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
All right.
It doesn't even dare to deserve to be
So
mentioned.
we were talking about that.
Yeah.
And in talking about that, one of the things that came up was the flag was raised, and he was confronted and turned in the early 90s. And the people in authority over him did nothing. And so it continued and continued. So the steps were in place, the proper channels were followed, and people dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Now we could take that and we can blame God for that. But God, if right, if God put the people in place to stop it and they didn't stop it, right?
Then why did he put them in place? If he knew they weren't going to stop it, he knows everything. He knows they're not going to stop it. So I put them there.
But if you put them in, but just follow me here. If you put them in place to stop it, and they didn't, then is it not their responsibility?
No, it's his fault for
be
putting them there.
Accountable for it.
It's the same thing with the Moses story. Now I go back to the Moses story in the Exodus, where Yahweh's like, Moses, I need you to speak to Pharaoh to release blah 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 blah. Well, Yahweh knew ahead of time Moses wasn't going to do it. Moses was going to back out of it and just carry the stick through the whole thing. But since I feel it's the same thing with these people, he put them there to question it, knowing they wouldn't question it. He already knows. He already knows that that's not going to be a sufficient enough thing to do, but he went ahead and did it anyways. That doesn't make sense. Why not put something there to stop it?
Well, I think he did, but people dropped the ball.
It's the same thing with Hitler. Do you think that the Jewish people are his favorite people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. He let them suffer. What happened in Exodus? He sent Moses and Aaron to plagues and all kinds of stuff to release his people. What did he send for the Jewish people with the Nazis?
Not enough.
Nothing.
No, but
nothing.
I mean, if we get in the Holocaust, that's a really big can of worms.
There's a whole but he didn't stop it, and he didn't try and stop it. He was all about the Exodus though, but he didn't stop it there when they're being slaughtered.
I think though, Michael,
versus enslaved. Sorry.
I think, Michael, from the angle that I hear you coming from is that because you can't see God, because you can't talk to God, because bad things happen in this world, then please let me finish.
Okay.
Then you have dismissed the what's the word I'm looking for? The person of God as being a loving, caring God. You have just dismissed that. Is that correct?
Well, I haven't seen it. Where
right.
Can you point to me the loving, caring God?
Well, have you seen Saturn?
Have I seen Saturn? I've seen lots of pictures of Saturn. Yes.
Well, there's pictures of Saturn, but that doesn't mean that you have not seen Saturn.
I've looked through a telescope and seen Saturn.
You have.
I have.
What about Pluto, the former planet? Pluto.
The dot. You can see a dot in the sky. Yeah. I mean, you can see these things.
I still think it's a planet.
They're possible.
Poor thing. Pluto. He's so far out there. I'm a Plutonian. If that's a word.
I don't know.
I was taught 9 planets. I'm going to die with 9 planets. Okay.
Right.
And 4 oceans, not 5 either.
Man. Yeah.
Crazy. But all right, you just froze. Did you?
Oh no.
Did I lose you?
I'm moving now.
I can't hear you. Dance. I don't see or hear anything.
Man, I totally forgot we were on too now. This always happens when we're deep into conversation. Dang it. Planets.
Oh, there you are. Right,
there you are. Okay, good. That always happens when we're deep in conversation. We're talking about planets.
I know. Now,
have I seen Saturn? Yes. Have I seen Jupiter? Yes. Any other questions? I've looked at the sun. I've stared at the sun too. That's not really.
Yeah, but we haven't seen the center of the earth. There's a lot of things on this planet that I haven't seen. I may have seen a picture of, but pictures don't do justice.
I'm not going to worship it though.
No.
Well, that's the difference. Either. I'm not going to worship something I haven't seen.
And that is your prerogative.
I'm not going to worship. Actually, go ahead. Yeah, go. Sorry.
But for me, for Pete, for me and my family, we do worship what I believe to be the living God, who is a God of love and also a God of justice and a God of grace and a God of much more good than there is bad. I think in this world, it's really easy to point out the flaws of things or the bad things, but we don't notice any of the good things. I mean, you just watch the news for how loud. It's depressing as all get out. But if they were to spend just a week and report nothing but good that people do for one another, good that is happening in our world, good, really good nonprofit organizations that are helping people, and then I think it would restore some of that faith in humanity that
Well,
is, I believe, comes from God.
but then we
Is
wouldn't
that
know about the bad
there
stuff
is
that's
far
happening and
more,
stepping
but
in and
there's
stopping
far
it.
more good, far more good. I mean, again, we talked about how raw the shooting in Texas was, and there's no way to justify that or anything. I'm not even going to talk about
Yeah,
try to do that. But
don't.
how many hundreds of thousands of or millions of children went to school that same day and had a great day and learned great things and experienced love and compassion?
My kids, for one.
My point is there's more good than there is bad, right? And that,
But we still have to
that
address the bad, though. We still have to confront it and address it. We still have to learn about it so we can tackle it and take care of it.
absolutely. I'm not saying we need to. I'm not saying we need to turn a blind eye to it.
Okay,
I'm saying that let's don't focus on the bad. Let's address the bad and let's try to right the wrong. But let's also try to focus on the good things that happen.
I don't know about your local news, but mine does that. They'll do like a mix of everything, what's going on in the world. They even have an adopt a puppy section. I mean, so there's a mix of everything. I see that.
We have adopt a puppy section, but we don't have an adopt a kid section.
Oh, it's a great idea.
I have written to our local news many times, and I have said, I care about dogs, but I care about,
I have
about
seen
kids
that
more.
I have definitely seen that.
Why don't we have adopt a kids section every Thursday at 6:30 or 6:20 on the 6 o'clock news? We're going to highlight these 5 kids that are up for adoption.
I've definitely seen that. They were like a brother and sister pair.
Instead of go to the Humane Society and focus on the dogs. I mean, I love dogs, but they're dogs. They're not human beings.
I love dogs.
I do
too. I think they're right up there with humans. I think we share a lot. But yeah, 100%. I love that idea. Dog and adoption section. I have seen that before. I think it's a great idea. So I want to dive into this worship thing, though. I don't feel the need to worship anything. I never have. Well, I did actually. I was a Christian at one point. I worshiped Yahweh extensively, lots of crying, lots of raised hands, lots of repentance for things that he didn't like that I did. Why worship something? Why do you need to worship something?
It makes me feel closer to him. It makes me attending worship services helps me to let's see, how am I trying to say it? Am I refueling from the past week or filling up for the week to come? Which is it? I think it's both. When I get to
explain that,
when I attend church or services, I get to be around other people who are struggling like I'm struggling. I get to be around other people who are just trying to live their best life as best they can in the world in which they live, and community. And that is very community based or geographic based. It's going to be different for me than it is for you because you're in California somewhere, right?
Las Vegas.
Okay. All right. Well, then you're in Las Vegas. I'm over here in Northwest South Carolina. So our experience there is going to be different because it's just a different world.
That's for sure.
I'm in the heart of the South. And, and we're hospitable people and we're loving people and we're gracious. We have a front porch that people sit on, for crying out loud. And I
not here in Vegas, not here. Over. Different worlds for sure.
but it helps me to, when I go to church and worship, it helps me to center myself on God for the coming week. For me, it's for the coming. It's preparing myself for the time coming up in the next several days with whatever I'm facing.
Help me understand that. How does the worship prepare you for the week?
When now I'm assuming that it's good music and a good message in what I'm saying.
Okay.
And having been a pastor and preacher, I know you don't hit a home run every week. Right?
No.
Sometimes you get a bunt single and you're happy for it, right? But
somebody clapped.
That's right. Okay, we got through it, but for the most part, for me, I'm a note taker when I hear scripture. Whenever the pastor is speaking, I have a notebook in my Bible and I take extensive notes and I actually go back and reread them because I get into the word and I'm trying to understand what the word is saying. And one of the great things for me that I see in the scripture and honestly, Michael, I read the New Testament 15 times more than I read the Old Testament. Okay. Yeah, I shouldn't, but I do. So I'm much more knowledgeable on the.
Well, it's the happy, feel good stuff versus the wrathful, angry child killer.
There's some confrontational stuff in the New Testament. A lot of confrontational stuff in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've seen is that you can read this same scripture, and 3 months later, read it again, and it speaks to you completely differently. And that's what we call the living Word of God, because Jesus was so profound, and Paul and Luke and Matthew and Mark, all the writers were so profound, and God inspiring them to write it is what I believe.
Yeah.
That the word continues to mean something different depending on where you are in your life and what you're facing at that time.
Well, that's
And-
reading the
and
Bible, though. But how does the worship feed you? Does the worship, I don't know, somehow
well,
guide you to the right verse or something? Or
Well, I'm a traditionalist. Okay. I like some of the rock and roll music, but
Yeah.
I'm 58 years old. That's really not my thing. I grew up with 3 hymns and a poem. Okay. So I like the traditional organ and piano, but I like some of the contemporary worship as well. But it's comforting to me. It's comforting to hear songs that I've heard for 45 years that I know by heart.
oldie station. That's why I listen to it.
Yeah, really.
It's
I
comforting.
love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and his glory, of Jesus and his love. And those words are just impacted into my heart. They're just there because I have sung them for most of my life. And some of those hymns for me tell me more about who God is, and it draws me closer to him. So when I'm at worship, again, it's the entire service, right? From opening prayer or opening announcements all the way through the benediction. For me, all of that's worship. It's not just the music, it's not just the preaching, it's not just the prayers. All of it together is worship. And I feel a need to do that because it draws me closer to God. It keeps me centered and keeps my priorities in order, because my priorities are God first, wife second, children next, and so forth and so on.
Whew, yeah, my dad told me that once too. I didn't really like it too much. Thought, hey, why is this invisible guy more important than me? That's weird. I can see my mom. That's I totally understand that part. But this other guy, like, I don't know, man. I thought I was a little more important than that.
Dad told me to eat spinach too. I didn't like it either, but it's good for me.
Well, I didn't see it as good for me. I don't see it as good for anybody. So
Well,
worship gives you the happy, good.
Respectfully disagree for that.
Yes, that's why we're here. So the worship gives you the happy feel goods for the week. Is that what it is?
Not necessarily, because a lot of times the scripture is very confrontational, and it hits me between the eyes and say, Pete, you are not living like you're supposed to. You are not making good decisions. You are not demonstrating the love of God that God is asking you to do. So
is that worship though?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
It is, because part of worship is self-examination, and
that is so weird, Pete. That is so weird to describe worship that way. I don't know. That's unique. That's Pete's version of it. I love it. Thank you. Appreciate that. I did want to close it out a little bit with love.
Okay.
Where do you see that in the Bible? Where's the love?
I think it starts a lot. I think it starts at creation. Yes, I think it starts there. That God, I think love is found in the person of Christ. That when God sent his only son here for us, that Jesus was in heaven at creation, and God said, listen, come here, I got something I need to tell you, buddy. I need you to do something for me. You're not going to like it. But God sent Jesus down here to sacrifice for us, so that we could have a better opportunity, so that we could spend eternity with him. Now, could he have done it another way? We can argue that till the cows come home, right?
Do you think that's a better way to do things, a blood sacrifice? Do you think that's a moralistic, idealistic, great way to go about things?
But you know what we think is moral in Western America is not the same as what people in New Guinea think is moral.
Right, but is it moral to you? Do you think that's a good idea?
I don't understand it.
Yeah,
but I accept it as what it is.
How do you feel about it though? Let's just put this in the scenario. Your kids did something you didn't like, and you had them sacrifice a dog, or you created another son that you killed to forgive them.
Yeah, but the whole reason, one of the main reasons one of the main reasons Jesus came is that he did away with blood sacrifice of animals and stuff.
Well, he needed blood sacrifice. Hebrews 9:22, without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. This is Yahweh's rule. He set this in motion. He could have chosen anything. Write me a love letter, write me a haiku. Holy cow, anything besides killing something. I'm a loving God. Now kill that.
What is a Jewish haiku? That would be funny to hear, wouldn't it? That was a good one.
It's gonna happen.
That was a good one. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, it doesn't make any sense. I'm a loving God.
But you know what?
but kill that in order for me to forgive
what I
you.
hear you saying, Michael, is that that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I'm not going to argue that.
You pile those things up that don't make any sense, though,
argue
Pete.
that.
I don't follow things that don't make sense.
Well, there's a lot of things that don't make sense.
Like what?
Follow. There's a lot of things in life that don't make sense.
Right, but we can Google it and figure it out. Like my cell phone, it's magic to me. But you know what? I can Google it.
WikiLeaks or whatever it's called. Well,
Yeah,
Wikipedia doesn't mean that it's accurate.
But I can go to a factory and watch my cell phone be made. We can figure these things out. We can actually witness these things. But when it comes to your loving God who requires bloodshed for forgiveness, we can't witness him. We had to have been alive when Jesus was here. We weren't.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't leave any photographic or video evidence, which would have been amazing. That would have been a miracle right there.
They didn't have photographs back then. There's no photographic evidence of anything back then.
He could right now on that silly little prayer wall or weeping wall or whatever the Jewish people do. He could have it projected on there, his crucifixion and resurrection. He could have that projected on there 24/7, 7 days a week. I mean, he could just have it on there. That's how he works, right? That would have been amazing, but I can't see it.
He doesn't work with a IMAX projector.
No, it could have been magic, man. He's magic. He came back from the dead. He turned water into wine.
It's not magic. It's miraculous.
Well, what's the difference between a miracle and magic?
A miracle is divinely right, and magic, there's a trick behind it.
If he's divine, how is it a miracle? He can do it anyways. So how is that a miracle? How is that like impressive? Yeah. Right. So how is it impressive when he does anything?
He can do anything, and why he chooses not to do the things that we think he should do, I can't answer that, and no one that you have on your show will be able to answer that.
No, well, they try.
No, well, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to. I'm not. Well, I'm not intending to try to justify why God does what God does, because God does what God does because that's just who he is, and why.
And I choose not to worship him because of the things he's done.
And
you choose to worship him regardless of the things he's done, and that's where I have the issue, Pete.
I'm not going to agree with that. Okay, if you want to say you don't want to worship him because of what he's done, then allow me to say why I worship him instead of you telling me why I worship him.
Is it because of the things he's done?
It's because of the things that he's done for me.
Pete.
Okay.
How is that different, though, Pete?
Well, I think it's very different. And I find it.
It's the same thing, though, Pete.
Well,
if he did it for you, anyways, go ahead. Go ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
I want to say this. And obviously we disagree on a lot of this, right? But I'm not laughing at your comments. And I would appreciate if you wouldn't laugh at mine.
Oh, man, Pete, I know I don't make any offense. Don't mean any offense at all. No, sorry, Pete. If it comes off that way.
And for most of this conversation, it hasn't been offensive, okay, at all that we disagree. But when you ask me for what I see as a deeply personal question, and I answer it as honestly as I can, and then you laugh in response, then that is offensive.
Well, Pete, I'm sorry. It's the same thing. When you tell me, if I say you worship him because of the things he's done, and then you tell me, no, I worship him because of the things he's done for me, that would be worshiping him for the things he's done. So that was my laugh.
That's not what you asked me, but that's not what you said.
Oh,
you said,
well, I could have sworn it was. I apologize.
At least what I heard was
that
you don't worship him because of the things he's done, and that Pete worships him because of the things he has not done. At least that's what I heard.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
maybe I misheard
it. Yeah, okay. That wasn't it at all, right. Pete. I apologize.
Okay. All right.
No. Yeah, we're good.
So it's just a misunderstanding there. But I worship God because for me, I have to. It makes me a better person. It makes me a better father. It makes me a better husband. It makes me a better person when I have my focus on God and not myself or other people. I find that when people ignore God, then they tend to, and I don't know you, we just met, so this is not directed towards you, but in the conversations I have with people who just say, well, I don't need that crutch of Jesus.
I don't.
Right? Well, they tend to be a lot more selfish and self-absorbed than people who work hard to keep the priorities of God first, others second, yourself third. And by having a servant heart and a servant mind of what can I do for you today? How can I help your day get better? Then I'm not focused on what God's doing or not doing with me. I'm trying to make your day better. That helps me to enjoy God more. When I can make somebody else's day better, that helps me to enjoy God, because I see that as God using me to bless them, and God using me to help their day get better. So for me, it's something that is necessary. I worship God because it is necessary for me to live and to be the person that I want to be, and to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better person in general.
Thank you for that, Pete. Now, for me, it's a little bit different. I've pushed aside all of that. I've pushed aside the fear of hell, the Jesus, the Yahweh, the Holy Spirit, all of that shenanigans, and I feel it's made me a better person. I've confronted all the religious, the problems, the issues, the Bible, all of that. And the fear that comes with it, man, that was a hard thing to get rid of, let me tell you. But I have become a better parent, a better father, a better husband, a better human being in general. Now I have a little more humanism. I'm a little more patient with people. I'm a little more respectful of other people's beliefs and wishes and who they want to love and stuff like that. All because I've pushed aside these beliefs. So we've got two different things. For you, it's good. And for me, pushing aside and not worshiping a documented child killer has made me a better parent. I don't see how that does make somebody a better person. And without God, I can be a good person. That's what I'm saying. Without any gods, I can still be a good person.
I find it interesting that you have a podcast about the Bible that you don't follow, and yet so many people are listening to it and are getting into the Bible because of what you're saying and reading it for themselves, and perhaps being drawn closer to God because of it.
I haven't seen that, actually. I've seen people questioning it a lot more. And 100% my thing is pick up your Bibles and read them. I want everybody to read the Bible. Read all the crazy stuff that's in there and question it 100%.
And all the good stuff that's in there.
Yeah. Love your neighbor is a good one, but I think that could be found anywhere else.
I think it's great to question. I do. Yeah. And I think it's great to debate it and to have good discussion. I did not know this is what the podcast was going to be about. So you kind of caught me off guard.
I thought you said you listened.
I did, but I didn't. Obviously, I missed something.
You missed something. All right. Well,
obviously, I missed something. So, but that's on me. That's on me. And so I would have been a little bit more apologetically prepared.
You're okay, Pete. You're okay.
But I don't know, Michael. It's one of those things that and I want to say this too for the listeners. I didn't grow up in church. My parents did not carry me to church growing up. They were just indifferent. They said they believed, but they never participated at all. I didn't start going to church. I have a sister who's 9 years older than me, and so she was married and so forth, and often, and she started attending church and started taking me with her, and that's how I got into church. And I was 12, 13 years old, somewhere in there, and that's when all of it became real to me. I mean, I had no foundation at all, right? And here I was a preteen when all this started coming in. And so it's not like it was just osmosis and I was just regurgitating what I was taught from birth.
Well, you grew up in America, right?
All brand new to me. I'm sorry?
You grew up in America though, right?
I did.
I mean, I can't go 5 feet without seeing a billboard that tells me to trust in Jesus. So, I mean, you were part of it. I mean, it was influencing you at some point.
Yeah, if it was, I wasn't aware of it. Okay,
yeah,
I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to argue that. I mean, small town, South Carolina. I mean,
oh yeah, I bet it's everywhere.
There's a church on every corner.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's I'm sure.
And 2 between the corners. Okay,
and 3 at the DMV.
That's right. That's right. Every flavor that you can imagine. So,
right. Yeah.
So I was aware of them, but it was just, it was. I mean, Sunday mornings was just cartoons and. I never understood why Dad said you can't play outside the afternoon, noon o'clock. Why? I mean,
why was it?
Because if people are in church, how are we disturbing them?
Yeah.
At church.
Shut up! They're trying to worship Jesus.
Got that one. And unfortunately, Dad died many years ago. I never got a chance to ask that question. But it was just I don't know, but it was not a priority until I got to my teens. And for me, it became a priority because I saw what God was doing with me. And I don't want to go into some of the things I went to through my teenage years.
Yeah, we've all done some pretty crazy shit,
Well, it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't, it, all that's measurable,
Yeah.
What I did was traumatic for me and was
Mm.
bad for me, but for you, it would have been like, or somebody else been like, you gotta be kidding. That's what bothered you. But for me, it was big obstacles for me to try to overcome, and starting to build a relationship with Christ, it gave me a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of hope. It gave me a sense of that I mattered to someone. And no, I didn't see him, but I knew he was there because I could feel his presence in my life when I couldn't feel it anywhere else. I felt it there, and I felt it through people who were helping me to understand some of these feelings.
I had the similar experience when I was youth group. It was a lot of turn or burn type style, but I felt a tingling in my chest and warmth and happiness and joy. But I get the same thing when I listen to my favorite song, or when I find a movie at the end of the movie and it's just so overwhelming and emotional and just, yeah, like Endgame, like the end of the Avengers Endgame. Man, it's such a great film. I highly recommend.
Never seen it.
Anyways, but I get the same feeling from that. So that's kind of what I went through. I went kind of in reverse osmosis, I guess. And I did not have experience with Yahweh except the tingling feeling, which I could have with anything else that was equally as exciting to me at that point in time in my life.
See, for me, the feelings are very different. Yeah, I get excited when I hear a good song or walking my daughter down the aisle, but it's a very different feeling when I feel the real presence of God. It's much more intense. It's much more the intensity is much greater.
Well, why would he send you that intensity and not me?
Because you're not looking for it, or
I was in church, man. Dude, I was on my knees several times begging and praying and crying, please reveal yourself to me, save me.
Yep.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Man. Why did he send you different tingles?
May have been what I needed at that moment. I don't know.
I needed it, man. I'm an atheist now. I mean, shit. I needed it.
Yeah. Well, and you still do.
I still do. He still hasn't done it. Still waiting.
Or maybe he has, but you're not listening because you're rebelling.
I didn't feel it, man. It wasn't convincing enough. He knows what can convince me. Why has he not sent me what is convincing?
Maybe he has. You're just not, but you're just rebelling it.
Okay, well, that didn't convince me then, Pete. So he knows.
I'm not trying to convince you.
He knows, though. He knows. Thank you. He knows what will convince me, though. He knows that one thing he can send me that I can't ignore that will be convincing to me.
And what is that one thing?
Holy, I don't know, but he does.
Well, if he does,
he's all knowing.
Well, if you don't know, and if it's presented to you and you don't recognize it, how are you going to know that's it, that it hasn't been there?
Well, he's an all-knowing God, Pete. I'm not. So he knows exactly what it is that will change my mind. He knows exactly what it is, but he has not done it, Pete. Let's ask that he does it. Can we have him do it right now?
I would argue that he may have, but because you're so rebelling against whatever he reveals, that you're not going to receive it.
Well, let's try it right now, Pete. You say you have a relationship with him. You converse with him. Let's see if it works. Let's try it right now while we're recording. I swear,
I'm not going to do the
to every God.
I'm not going to rub the genie lamp for you there, Michael.
Well, it works for Paul and Saul. Why can't it work for you?
Because I'm not Paul and Saul.
Anything you ask for in prayer, Pete, you're going to save my eternal soul right now.
Paul was called for a very specific purpose.
I have a podcast and I'm an author. I have a reach.
I do too.
Yeah. So what? Convince me. Have Yahweh convince me. Send him down. Send anything, any kind of sign whatsoever.
See, I'm not going to play that game with you, Michael, because what you're trying to do is to turn my God into a genie or a hocus pocus.
I'm trying to turn your God into actual evidence. I mean, just like he's not here. He's not showing me anything though, Pete. And you have a relationship with him.
But for me, the evidence is all around us.
It's not for me though, Pete.
Well, and the way I see that, Michael, in our conversation is that you're choosing not to see it. It's a choice that you have.
What? You're choosing to see that it hasn't been created by Spider-Man, Pete.
I'm choosing to see it, and you're choosing not to see it.
You're choosing. I'm choosing to see that Spider-Man created the universe, and you are not, Pete.
No, I'm not, because Spider-Man is created by human beings.
So is God.
It's really bad comics too, by the way. I'm not a comics guy. I'm not a Marvel guy. I don't like any of that stuff.
Man, we were going to be friends. We're going to like go hunting together. Oh,
Yeah,
Pete.
well, we still can.
I don't know, man. You
Although
don't
I
like
don't know I can
comics.
trust an atheist who may shoot me in the back, but
Wow. No,
just
Pete.
kidding.
No.
Just kidding. Let's see what God's going to do with you now.
Oh, man. All right. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that, man. All right. Close it out. Where can we find your stuff?
Oh, gosh. That was a good one. ChristianOutdoors.org is my podcast, and it's also my website. And it's because I've been an outdoor writer for 20 something years. I write hunting and fishing stories mostly, and I've written 6 books, one of which is my God book that we talked about earlier. But all of my stuff is on my website at ChristianOutdoors.org, and the podcast is actually it's in the top 1% now in what is that? FeedSpot or whatever.
Congrats, man. That's
little
not
over
easy to do.
A little over 200,000 subscribers, 132 episodes out. We release a new one every week. Every Monday, one will come out. And while it is called Christian Outdoors, I want to say this real quick: is that sometimes we talk about outdoor stuff, sometimes we talk about Christian stuff, and sometimes we talk about things that I just feel the need. I found a good person with a really good topic. As an example, next week's episode is a lady who has struggled through and postpartum depression and how that affected her life, and how she is helping women and husbands to recognize and to deal with the struggle of postpartum depression, which is something that is not normal that Christian Outdoors would do. But I met her and I said, you know what? I've done several podcasts on depression and on things like that, and you need to go back, and I'm going to send you some of these episodes on what does the Bible say about suicide? What does the Bible say about divorce? What does the Bible say about divorce? That's the name of your thing. Yeah. So I've done those episodes. What does the Bible say about the death penalty? What does the Bible say about, so we've done episodes like that, in which me and other pastors working together to answer. So it's not just me.
We should totally do one together if you're up for it.
Yeah.
What's the Bible say about something? Let's just pick it. Let's go. I think it'd be fun. Hell, angels, Satan. Oh, this is good. Okay. This is good stuff.
Okay.
I'm down.
All right. But just give me time to prepare for that topic.
No, yes. Great idea. No, 100%.
That's where my stuff is, and my podcast is on all the podcast apps. You can get my books either at my website or on Amazon. And my Do You Enjoy God is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook as well.
Congrats, man. It's not easy to do all that work, books and podcasts and shenanigans, but thank you so much for your time, patience, and answers today. I will keep in touch. We'll definitely do one of those. I like Satan idea or hell idea. I think that'd be fun to be on your show.
I just did one 2 weeks ago on who goes to heaven and why.
Oh, so let's do Satan then.
Well, I'm going to do who goes to hell and why is the follow.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
Right.
I'm totally down. Reach out. Let's do it. All right, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
And that's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to patreon.com/BSW the podcast and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will give you access to the patron feed, unaired conversations, early access to each episode, and much more. For the latest events, BSW swag, and a peek behind the scenes, head on over to the show's ever-evolving webpage at thebiblesayswhat.com. The Bible Says What the book is out. Head on over to thebiblesayswhat.com and get yourself and your grandma a signed copy. Thanks to the cosmic powers of the internet, it is now possible to buy me a beer or coffee online. Simply go to buymeacoffee.com/BSW the podcast and click the appropriate buttons. If you can't support the show monetarily, please like, share, and or leave a review. As always, you can find me at the Bible Says What Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram pages. You can also reach me at bswthepodcast@gmail.com. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly pick up your Bibles and read them? Got anything to say to the world? What do you got to say?
The world is overheating. We're polluting. Let's stop that. Because the end of the world will be soon if we continue this.
Wow. Thanks for that doomsday advice, sir.
Yep. Doom vice.
You heard it here, folks.